it certainly seemed far away when the pandemic first started coming out in Wuhan. We obviously were starting to monitor it, as I think everybody was. It seemed incredibly foreign when we started learning that it was outbreaking in Seattle, and then we knew that there were cases in California. It started to strike home. It happened incredibly rapidly. We went from everybody needs to be mindful, do your best to keep 6 feet of space. We recommend that the vulnerable, stay at home as much as possible. It was just a recommendation. And 72 hours later, it was lawful that everyone was shut down and you were at home. So our conversations changed dramatically in those periods of like, wow, this is getting pretty serious, to holy crap, this is incredibly serious. And we didn't have a lot of time to really have kind of thoughtful discussion on it. So it was evolving in real time for us. I think that we are kind of cut from pretty hard cloth in this industry. The specter of failure hangs over us every single day. If you take it for granted, then you're destined to make a wrong step that will be fatal in this business. So I don't think that we had a sense of panic when it came down to all of those things. What we did have was a sense of responsibility to our staff, to the facility, to our guests, to continue to really sit there and, all right, what is the plan now? Before it was nebulous. Before we didn't really know what the rules were going to be. We went from it's recommended that you operate with a decreased capacity to you are completely shut down for takeout only in 12 hours. So the very next day, we had our entire management team from all stores. We spread out across Campus Point so we could be socially distant, and we talked about what we were going to do. We were going to operate, in to-go capacity. We were obviously going to need to furlough a lot of staff. We were going to make sure that anybody that we could keep on was going to keep on, and then we quickly transitioned. We divided up responsibilities. Responsibilities from our operations managers were going to be to figure out how we could safely continue to operate. Operations for me, as the managing member, was going to figure out what available government programs there would be and how we could go about unveiling ourselves to those things so that we could make sure that financially we were solvent enough to continue to pay health insurance and continue to pay salaries and things of that nature. So that time was, I think, well spent and critically well spent, because it allowed us to really sit there and say, all right, we're going to divide and conquer. You're doing this, I'm doing this, you're doing this. We're all going to continue to talk on the phone, or we're going to be apart for a little while, which is unusual. Usually we see each other every single day, and we went 2 weeks without everyone getting together. So that was a challenge. We wanted to keep all of them up and going. When Fresno State shut down and sort of went dark, really shuttered itself, and then obviously the Save March Center was shuttered and movie theaters were shuttered, Campus Point really became sort of an abandoned area, which is hard to see because it was so full of life 2 weeks prior to this. But that was just sort of the nature of the beast. And so with Campus Point and our original location on Willow, the Mad Duck, being so close together, we recognized that people were just traveling more often to Willow as opposed to Campus Point, which is, you're heading into this dark area, is off the beaten path. It just wasn't really working out. So Jacob, my chief operations officer and business partner, came and said, I want to shut down Campus Point. I want to transfer the management over to both stores so that we have an abundance of trained managers both in the kitchen and in the front of house to help facilitate a smoother operation in takeout and to go. And I think by dividing this team up, we can provide a better product, and we're just going to shutter Campus Point and we'll only brew there. And that ended up being what we did, and it was a choice made on a terribly grim necessity. A few weeks after that, we came up with again, this was Jacob, came up with a very interesting idea of basically pre-packaging meals to go and then selling them through our little beer truck. We'd drive to apartment complexes, people could buy tri-tip sandwiches or salads or anything that was prepackaged, and then they could go out and buy a growler if they were buying food as well. And so Campus Point ended up being kind of that catering arm that took it up, which is necessary. Buildings have to be lived in, kitchens need to be cooked in, or they sort of rot. And so it was incredibly necessary for us to get Campus Point humming even just a little bit. And it also allowed us to bring back 6 staff members, which is important to their financial livelihoods as well. But the brewery stayed operational over there as it stayed operational over here. But the bulk of it just came down to the economics of the situation, which is we have 3 kitchens. We only need 2 right now. And these are the 2 that we feel can best support what the Duck is doing. First and foremost, I think the Duck family is one large family. Maybe multiple locations, but we're extremely close with our staff and with their colleagues. They're, like I said before, we're all dishwashers. Some of us just do other things. And there were about 180 of us when we went into shelter in place, and there are about 31 of us left right now. And that was, I think, the hardest week of ever owning this business. We've been through dark times, but nothing like having to not see them every single day and not being able to provide, not being able to give good answers. How it's impacted us there was devastating. It was a real blow to our idea of providing a safe and stable platform for which these other young people who were just like us, 10 years ago, to come up and pursue their goals. What made it, I guess, slightly easier was the fact that the whole world had been disrupted. They couldn't go to school, they couldn't do all the things that they had been doing prior to this either. So I guess we got a little bit of a hall pass in that, but I still feel incredibly responsible for them and for the choices we had to make going into that. The key thing that I've taken away from this is actually been how much everybody has stood together and stayed together. The close-knit, strong bonds, the sense of family ties has never eroded. And so the morale has remained high, that we get to come, we get to see each other. If we're going to have a conversation over a beer, we can still come and have that normality and have that strategy session and still see what was remaining of our flock. And now going into the exit of shelter in place, when we're able to call back a lot of people, they've all come back. 90% of the staff has decided to return, which is just phenomenal. So getting to go see them again and see that, we believe we're all going to get through this. We are all going to get through this. And standing together is really reversed that early sort of sickening feeling of failure with actually the principles and the camaraderie that really made the Duck special have remained this entire time, whether we were all together or whether or not we had to be apart. So that has been something that I've found incredibly rewarding in this whole time, and we've been looking for silver linings for a while. But that part in particular has made me like a little warm ball of light. Has really kept my spirits up. That when I see our fellow Ducks, it's high fives. It's we're gonna get through it. It's face masks on. They can see that I'm smiling even if they can't see my face. So just a tremendous credit to the character of the individuals who have really made this company what it is.